Good evening. Welcome you all into this weekly webinar series called VICHAR. VICHAR is an initiative of Federation of Indian Associations of Victoria. My name is Soni, and I'm current trustee, past president of FIAV. And this has been my passion to talk and connect to a lot of community members in Victoria. We have tons of talent in the community. We can learn a lot from each other, and this is the opportunity where we can share our near and dear friends who would be a good speaker on this forum. Please them to me. And this is a weekly webinar. Those who are watching it on YouTube after a post event recording, please like and subscribe and promote and share this webinar series. And please also join our WhatsApp group. The details are available on the flyer information message. So we welcome our speaker today, Rajnish ji. Welcome. Good evening.
Thank you,
And
sir.
and to introduce you, I would now request Samir Manduskar ji to introduce you and welcome you as well. Thank you. Over to you, Samir ji.
Thank you, Surya ji, and thank you and warm welcome to all the participants. I'm, yeah, I'm told to introduce the speaker. So just before I start my introduction, I would like to, say that it is a real pleasure to be associated with this group. And I like the idea of a Vichar podcast, which sort of gets us going, thinking in different ways and how we can improve ourselves as well as improve the community around us. So, coming to the speaker, to my dear friend Rajnish ji, he has been my friend for more than close to about 10 years now. I've been associated with him through the Melbourne chapter of the Institute of Chartered Accountants of India, and we have worked very closely over the years. He's also a member of CA Australia and New Zealand, and also a member of ACCA of the UK. Rajneesh hails from the state of Bihar in India, and he migrated to Australia close to 19 years ago, and he's very happily living with his family. Rajneesh also had a lot of ups and downs throughout his life, and it is surprisingly he is very thankful for all those ups and downs, which is a great thing to know. And the reason for that is he has it has led him to a very rewarding self improvement journey. Apart from this, he is also an avid reader, a runner, and a very likable people's person. Over the years, he has developed an entrepreneurial mindset, and he has worked in traditional and online businesses. And his future goal is to create a social enterprise in preventive health as well as self education sectors. So, ladies and gentlemen, please put your hands together for our beloved speaker, Rajnish Kumar Singh. Over to you, Rajnish.
Thank you. Thank you, Samir, for the kind words. And first of all, thank you to Surya ji also for doing amazing job with the Vichar platform, which he's been doing. And I was like totally unaware of it till Vimal ji called me the other day, and I could not reply him for a few hours. And I called him next day, and then he told me about that. So, I mean, when Bimal Bhai says something, you got to do it. And that was one of the, but any opportunity it comes for me to improve myself, I take the opportunity. So this is, I want to welcome everybody who is here, but there is something in it for me as well. And that is the chance to speak to you, which will refine my own skill as well. At the same time, what I want to promise is like you will get a couple of things which probably you would have heard of earlier, or with whether you would have implemented something. You probably can, that will just refresh your memory, or you will take on something which you can apply in your own life. So I'm pretty sure that if those learnings help me and countless others who I work with, that will help you as well. Now, I'm not a coach, public speaker, or anything like that. It is more from my personal journey. So the topics which I'm going to tell you, it's imbibed in me. Like my wife was stressing last night because I've become pretty laid back over a period of time. I don't stress about things a lot. And at around 9 o'clock, when I finished my dinner, and she's telling me, "Hey, is the talk you're going to do tomorrow, isn't it? So have you done your preparation and things like that?" She was stressing more than me. And I said, if you have to speak about things you already do, then there's not a lot of preparation. If you do a lot of preparation, that means you're speaking theory, not the practice. So that would be something which I wanted to tell you. And at any point in time, if you had a question or something in your mind you want to discuss, just raise your hand, or Suryaji particularly would have
Yep.
some kind of system here
Yep.
where you would come, because it's better not be one-sided. If you wanted to interact and give your views, because all I'm going to discuss is life lessons. And I'm pretty sure everybody, if you tuned into this VICHAR series every 2 weeks or 1 week, you do
Every
this
week. Yeah, every week.
every week, that means you're already a step ahead for so many people around you, because you're very tuned into self-development or new things, and you wanted to learn but also give because of your own knowledge. And so, yeah, I would just say that you're already a step ahead. If there's something which you wanted to contribute, just let us know. And then, but the only thing I will tell you is be brief and sharp. Like, being brief is because the organizers have a set time for this to finish. So if we take too long for like what 20 of us, if we take like 3 minutes each, then 60 minutes is done.
Yep.
So so that's something. So with that, do you allow me to share this? Should
With
I?
before we jump in, we know, and I want to thank Vimal Galotji, who has introduced you to this program. And there's a special day for Vimalji, and Vimalji may want to leave, but before he leave, Vimalji, please take it as a moment if you want to share your few lines of thoughts here before you may want to drop off later in the program. Over to you, Vimalji.
Yeah, Suraji, thank you very much. I don't want to take much of your time, but I really appreciate that Mr. Rajin is a learned speaker, and Mr. Samir is also our past chairman. Mr. Rajnish is also our past chairman, and myself was heading this chartered accountant chapter as well. So we all three are from Chartered Accountant Association, and it's good to connect with the VICHAR webinar. You are doing a fantastic job. I don't want to take much of your time, and please continue, Mr. Ranjit, and thank you, Shiraji, for giving us Chartered Accountant chapter this session. Thank you very much.
And
Thank
I
you,
thought
Vimalji. Over to
I
you,
thought
Ranjit sir.
Vimalji will show his video that he's in some kind of resort somewhere. Okay, Vimalji is gone.
Yeah, you can share your screen and yeah.
Okay, done. I'll share the screen, and then I'll just go from here. Can you all see that? Yeah, Suryaji, you're on mute.
Yep, screen is visible. Thank you.
Okay, so as we looked at the topic, which Suryaji and I was discussing about the topic, I just thought, okay, well, let's name it as unlock the power of self-leadership, or generally I call that for myself is learn how to attract favors. And there is a reason why I kept this topic, learn how to attract favors, is as I go through, you will find why I said that. So in the talk, what I will have is there are a few things which I just wanted. So I will start with a little bit of my story, then like the leadership meetup, which was started 14 years ago. I'll give you a little bit of a brief about that. Then I'll take the topic on a journey for a little bit, maybe 20 minutes, and then conclusion and question and answer. If you have any question, we can discuss something. We can keep the house open for that. So is that good with everybody?
Yep.
Yeah. Okay. So let's start from here. Now I'll go to my campus story interview, but let's start with that. That was in, the year was 1998, and I was one of the guy who passed my chartered accounting first attempt. I was selected with a lot of other companies selected in for the campus interviews. That was the first year Institute of Chartered Accountants in India started campus. Before that, the big engineering company were doing it, management companies were doing it, and CA just thought that their members are, too cool, so they started this journey, and I was one of them. So shortlisted by a few companies like the Marico, like companies like Marico Industries, RINL, Reliance, and few other companies, SBI Life, and so many other companies at that time. Now that went for 3 days. So we had some training, we had companies taking interviews, and those 3 days, every day I would just prepare myself and I'll go and I will have a hope. 3 days passed and I was one of them, stayed unemployed. And that was like, there was group discussion. I still remember to this day, Reliance did a group discussion. A lot of other companies did, but Reliance was very typical. They would take 1 dozen at a time. So it was a big table. They will have 6 sitting on the other side and 6 sitting this side. And the topic they gave for group discussion was pretty simple. Actually, the topic was, should we have 2 separate teams for 1-day cricket and 5 days cricket? Very simple topic where I could have spoken on that. But by the time I opened my mouth, the group discussion finished. And then the coordinator from Reliance said, okay, you come and you come. The rest of you go home, kind of. And so after the moral of story, after 3 days, I was unemployed. Like I couldn't get into the job with so many companies, taking so many of RCA were just employed right then and there. And at that time, and that's where I wrote this. What would you do at that time? You would just start to blame the situation. Well, if I studied in Bombay or Pune, because most of the kids from Bombay and Pune were pretty smart, spoke really good English, they could articulate really well. I came from a place called Muzaffarpur in Bihar. If we speak English, people get mad. Like you got to speak your local language. And so you either blame the situation of your upbringing and things like that, you complain, you justify that, wow, this is what it is, which kind of eases the hurt for the moment. So I was like I was hurt because I could not get employed, almost like in a situation of crying. But then the fact remains that just very fair, because I was probably not up to the mark for them to take me on the journey. So in this case, there are 2 questions comes to the mind. Does it have to be like this? Do you have to complain? Or can we take some control in our hand? So the next few minutes, that would be something which I literally took the journey along. And so every few years, you will get this awakening call where it just gives you, you change course, not just me, but, if there's anybody, is there anyone here who remembers any turning point of your life that one event led you to take a bigger decision or decide or make some resolution that I wanted to change something in your life? Did that happen to you, any of you?
Yep, Zain, you want to share, or anybody you want to share openly?
Yeah, it would be good for anybody to share.
Yeah, I will tell some of my experience.
Yeah.
I joined Steel Authority of India Limited at Durgapur Steel Plant. Durgapur was supposed to be one of the worst steel plants at that point of time because of communism and other things. There, the first item they will say is, Kam cholbe na, no work, you cannot interfere. And a youngster, they hated because the average age there was 50 and above of all the people, whether they are officers or, or the lower clerical staff. And I joined as a junior manager there. The moment I went there, our trainer, we had a very good training at Rourkela Steel Plant. Then the trainer said only one thing, When you go there, you have to fight for your table, you have to fight for your desk, and that true to that, all the things happened like that. The worst part was my manager never gave any work to us. He said, sit down, sit down, sit down. I sat on next to his table for 1 month without any work. There are 3 other people in my group. They used to go roaming. I said, no, I have to take control of the situation. I have to prove something different. I started studying the file. Then when he saw this, he had an opportunity in me. He sent me to the meetings, all the meetings. And you won't believe, from there on, my journey in sale went fantastic. I was one of the star performers there. And I was able to sit down with the chairman also and talk to him. And that changed my thing. One moment, that one decision, no, I have to read these files, I have to work. I should not get up from the seat. That changed.
Pretty amazing.
That's a great, I mean, that's what it is. And what you said, Gopal, it is going to come in some of those things as in why it is important as well. So thank you for sharing. Very good. Well, that's good. So what happened from there on in India? I just went on a self-development journey in a way, because I started to improve myself. I could do a lot started working for a company called NTPC. I did some development there. I just had this hunger to improve my communication skill in the beginning, and just the overall, the way I can put my words to people. That's just became a hunger. And when I came into Melbourne, what happened when I started working here, I found that a lot of corporations, they have this training on technicals, but there is no training on soft skills. So generally, like, very few companies would send you for like pay for like money and send you go do some courses in Monash, Melbourne, or leadership and things like that. They don't do that. So I started to find that vacuum. And in that time, I just started to go into different events and stuff. And then I met few people, and I just thought, why don't we start something where we can learn with each other? And that's what started the leadership personal development meetup around in 2011. So that since then we've got almost 6,000 members of that. Like, these people, most of the people had come and attended our events. We had a different group as well called Melbourne Small Business Community, which we recently just thought there's no point having two different groups. That had 3,000 members as well. So there was a big group. We used to do that together. And my co-organizer, Martin, he's been amazing in terms of speaking, and his understanding of personal development is next level. So that served the community for a long time. So as you can see, 14 years, more than 140 sessions with different people coming and speaking. A lot of the time I spoke or Martin spoke, where we didn't have professional speakers. And it's been a great journey. I mean, we just enjoy that every second Thursday of the month. That's the we used to do that in person in Melbourne. So the photos which you say, the top one is where we used to do in person, like you have got groups of people sitting and discussing, and then they present. And then we started to do online. So that was the reason I still see that the learnings which I had, and Suryaji, you would have noticed with your own initiative with VICHAR, is the kind of amount of things you pick up just because you organize these things that different people coming, but you are the one attending it as well. So you listen to those and you capture so many good things. So I'm very thankful that this thought came in and we started on this journey. So a lot of learning through this.
It's a pretty big, consistent initiative you've done for 14 years. So it's a long journey, and you've been doing it every month, and you have not missed a single except one in during the pandemic. But for last 14 years, you have never missed monthly meetup. That's an amazing outcome. Thank you, Rajnish,
December
for
is the
sharing.
only month, now January as well, where we don't conduct because people are away. But generally, we have at least 10 months in a year consistently. And if anybody wanted to know more about you can scan the QR code that will take you to the page and you can learn more about it. But I can bring it later on as well.
Yeah, I can share it on the WhatsApp later.
You don't
Thank
have
you.
to rush it. Now, going on the journey, going on the topic journey, I've got divided them into 3 parts. The first part is the focus on self, as Gopal was talking about, like how he, like himself. So self is very important, and what I call that is strength, because my strength comes primarily from my own self. So we'll discuss about the self part of it. And then the second part would be more environment. Now, I can't change the environment, but I can be an influencer, or you can be an influencer and get the support out of that environment, because without others, you are not. I mean, even if you become the strongest person, but without community, you're not complete. So environment is very crucial. And the third one is together, golden rule. And the golden rule is that brings everything together. You live a principle based life, and that's something which we will discuss. But before we go that, I mean, this is the part which I actually kept for Vimalji. So this, because I thought you constantly forget people on thanking them, so I thought I'll create a slide for that. And Samir, it was too late for me to put the 4th photo for you. So, of course, Suryaji for organizing this, and all the best for you to do this. And I will definitely jump in future for some of these sessions. Vimalji for being a friend for more than a decade. And lastly, whenever I talk about personal development and my growth journey, I always put my brother. Some of you must have met him, seen him. He, in my initial days, he pushed me a lot. I mean, when I say I was like a lazy, just wanting to stay in the village, not wanting to go anywhere, where he just pushed me to my uncomfort zone. Coming to Australia was also because of him, because he just said, he made fun of me so much that I had to come here. So I'm very thankful that he always kind of stretched me. So let's start with self. And I just said, anytime when you've got anything in your mind, and I will also call upon to ask few things to make it interactive. So has anybody read the book, The Alchemist by Paulo Coelho? You maybe just raise your hand, say yes in the chat. That's the way. If you haven't, great book to read as well. I think it's available in so many different languages. Hindi, English, any language you find, Alchemist, you will find a book. And this particular one, I like. There's few quotes are there which I always like, and they are so true in life. Like this one particularly, this is a mantra to live by. This says that when we strive to become better than we are, everything around us becomes better too. And that just says that yes, that is the essence of development, self-development particularly. Krishna, you wanted to say something?
No, just I wanted to tell that I have read the book Alchemist.
Oh, very good. Very good. And how did you find it?
It was super amazing. It was the first novel which I finished completely. Before my graduation, I finished it after as well. After my graduation, it's such an amazing book. And like how a child, when actually in Hindi there is a dialogue, जब आप किसी काम को शिद्दत से चाहो तो पूरी कायनात उसे जुटाने में लग जाती है. That is derived from that Alchemist itself. Entire
That's
existence
true.
supports you when you start feeling for something.
So true. There's so many good dialogues, I mean, in that book, which people would have taken in different
Super
shape
amazing.
and form. So true. So true. So thank you. So let's go to a different story again, like a turning point. So this turning point is in Melbourne. So when I came in, I worked on different smaller jobs here and there. Then this company came in, which was around about 300 million turnover, large Australian aftermarket auto parts retailer. And they were based in like national, but the head office was in Victoria. So I started working there. And then few months in, then I found out that the company went into voluntary liquidation. So suddenly I had no job. And before that, I had bought my first, when you're a new migrant, you got 2-3 years here, you saved up some money. The first thing you do is buy a house. So that's the dream. So you bought a house, and then 3 months after, 4 months after, the company went into bankruptcy because, that 2008, a lot of companies, the situation was worse at 2008-9, and they went bust. So I had like nothing. I mean, literally, I had no job. Now, how do you then pay the mortgage? At that time, if anybody remembers, if you had house around that time, you would remember that the interest rate was very high. And it was, pretty high interest rate. So I was like, that was a jolt. Like that was literally like shook me that what's next. My wife was, that she had, like, we had a small child, really difficult time. And around that time, this is the first time I realized in my life that your world can be shaken by external environment if you are not ready. And when I was in India, generally the companies would not evaporate overnight. Particularly, I didn't have the experience. I worked for a large public sector enterprise. Life was cruisy. Came here, and these things happened. So that gave me because I didn't have that understanding. I just could not believe it. But then since then, what it told me that, okay, just being learning and doing things is not enough, because that still is putting me into a bracket where my life would be shaken anytime. So I got to change. I got to improve to an extent that my strength goes up. I got to build the strength. So what I wanted to convey here through my story is, when you want to go on a personal development journey, there has to be some kind of pursuit, because self-refinement comes with a cause, something we wanted to do. That could be, you would laugh at it, but let's say if we were in our late teens or early 20s and we wanted to get married. At that time, you wanted to keep yourself fit. You wear really good clothes. You always make sure that your mouth is not stinking. You're putting perfume on you because you're going to meet people, and somebody could be your bride, right? So at that time, the pursuit is to find a life partner, and we keep ourselves fit, right, at that time. Similarly, let's say when we want to get employment, we look at all the technical journals, we try to learn different things, and the whole idea around that time is keeping ourselves up to date with what we know, so that a particular interview comes and I want to get employed in a good company. So a pursuit, a goal or a dream, a calling is important. And for me, that was building my strength to an extent where money is not something I should be worried about, because it wasn't. I mean, the company closed. Was I worrying that the company closed? Because I didn't have any share in that. I did not find it. Like, the company was not founded by me. I was just an employee. But because they closed it, my income stopped. My family went into kind of disarray because somebody stopped paying me. So if I had the money, would that be a challenge for me? If I had that much money coming in my bank account, that'd be okay, no problem. But you close, I'll take some time off, and maybe after a few months, if I want to get employed somewhere, I'll look at again. So I just thought that is very important. That just became a pursuit for self-sufficiency. That was my pursuit, just self-sufficiency. And that when we look at self-improvement journey, there are things where you got to learn. In the beginning, we got to learn to lead ourselves. And learning to lead ourselves is a challenge in itself, because there is a word called discipline. And discipline is not a good word. Who remembers the primary school days or your even secondary school days where you were disciplined for talking to a friend, which you really wanted to talk to them, and because the lecture was so long, you just could not wait till the lecture gets over, till the class gets over, right? So you really wanted to talk to them. You talked, and then you were just sent outside, and you were just put in outside in the sun, and murga bana diya bolte hain na wo jaake. So discipline is not a good word. How do you then, imbibe those things on yourself when nobody is watching, or nobody is telling you to do something. When somebody told you, you did it, but now there is no boss. How do you? So self leadership is hard. Building a habit is hard, and that's where I think every time we get a jolt, that tells us, every time your world is shaken, you just go and become. I find people, if they are really good. I mean, they're doing all kind of things. They have a good family. They're gelling together well. Suddenly, they take it for granted. They stop, kind of looking after each other in relationships. They separate, and then suddenly, because they didn't value what they had in their hand. And I actually counsel a few people on that. And then suddenly you're not in relationship anymore, and then you start to go on a journey of self refinement and things like that, because something happened in your life which shook your world. Same thing happened with people who started a business, and suddenly they had this massive loss, because when the business was going well, they became frugal, did not look after it. And then suddenly when they started to go down, then you start to, so world, sometimes when the world shakes, then you start to become really good at and focused on self improvement journey. And it has happened to me. But one thing I learned, that when we, rather than waiting for those bad days, why don't we keep what we wanted always alive, like not giving up? And I'll talk about that later. But having an attitude of, if I really wanted something, that means it is there for me. If the thought comes in your mind, that means that is a thing to do or thing to have. So that belief in abundance is really important. And the reason I'm telling you, because over the period of time, I started to believe that if I don't have something bigger, I would never have good habits or discipline in my life, because I'll just go disarray. And now, I think when I talk to people, I understand where they come from, and I see the gap. I don't go and tell them you do this or that, but I understand where I was, and I see them on the same situation as well. So that was on leading yourself. Then finding a mentor, coach, or guide. The reason I kept it, because we don't know everything. The saying is, you need to have somebody who can tell you what actually you should hear, but you don't want to hear. You should have somebody who sees you from a different angle and shows you a path, that, hey, if you did this. And that's why those mentor, coach, or guide is really important. Finding somebody, even in the community. I'm pretty sure Samir or Surya, you guys probably would be guiding so many other people, because they need your help on understanding different things from a different lens, like from the lens of somebody who's got experience. At the same time, you and I need that guidance from somebody higher up who knows more than us, has got more life experiences. Samir.
Yeah, Rajnish, thanks for that. Just very quickly, I wanted to add one point. We talked about mentor, coach, and guide. Many times, this is based on my experience, you feel that, we know everything. Whatever area we are working in, whatever topic we are, attached with, we always feel we are self-sufficient. But experience has taught me that there is, just like when you drive in a car, you have a sort of a blind spot. Similar to that, even in our careers, we have a blind spot. So if you're leading few people, there is a leadership blind spot. If you're doing a career, there is a career blind spot. And the reason for that is we are very close to our day-to-day transactions and interactions. There's a saying in English that, if you're too close to the trees, you can't see the jungle. So something similar, this is where the mentor has to come in and say, look, you're too close, you can't see the whole picture, step back, and this is how it looks on an overall basis. So I believe that's the importance of a mentor. Yeah, that's it.
Yeah.
Thanks.
That's a great addition, Samir. Yeah. And that's what it is. I mean, having people around your corner is what creates the ecosystem of growth. the Silicon Valley, like people in IT companies, just see that there's so many people in that environment. So that environment is very crucial. I mean, when I go to India, I'm not joking this, but when I go to my village and I have to hide on my roof, like on the top roof, floor, to read book or do something, because if I sit there, nobody will let you. If you sit on your own, they will just tell you there's some problem here, like he's angry, he's not happy, like people want to entertain you all the time, where you need that time for yourself. And that for me is like when I go running, I listen and those things. So my message to you is, you already have something going, and that is amazing. If you not, then try to find something, try to find some time for yourself, because that's when some kind of creativity or some kind of dream will take a birth. And that's when there'll be an opportunity to strengthen self. Because when we become sufficient, I'm not saying that we don't need the society, but the first step is to become strong, mentally, emotionally, financially. We got to be stronger, because if you are not, how are you going to support somebody else? So that's a very clear message I got in my life, that the first responsibility is self, and then I look at others. So, and I will have few interaction in this one. Then looking at things outside of us. So we just looked at self, then outside of us, which is the environment, just everything around the world. Now, we can't manipulate, we can't influence in a normal way, but by our deeds, we can actually start to scratch the big universe to kind of help us in a way. And there are few things which I find that if we change, or if we added few things in our makeup, in our work, then that will create the pull which we are looking for from the nature, from the environment. And those things, there are so many other things. I mean, that is a topic in itself. But let's say, talking about few things, optimism. So let's say we've got a topic, we've got optimistic and pessimistic. A lot of people you have heard about, some people are they've got good positive mental attitude, whereas some people got very, they worry about risk all the time. Now, I'm not saying that you just ignore the risk, be risk smart. But at the same time, having a positive, optimistic outlook of life is very important. And if that is not there, you probably would not seek a lot of help from the environment, from the nature, because you'll be always worrying about things. An optimistic people is always open. So when you give, you get. Pessimistic people are very risk. They look at risk from a very different angle. So before they have to open up, they want everything else to open up to them. It just generally does not happen. So that's where being optimistic helps. And then talking about self-control, this is one of the topic which is very close to, and I revisit every time. Every 4 months, 6 months, I would revisit the topic of self-control. Now, whatever I would tell you, that's my learning from a book called The Law of Success, or the author who has written the book called Think and Grow Rich, called Napoleon Hill. And there is a whole lesson on self-control. If you wanted, I can send you the link for the PDF, and you can go through that. But self-control is about thought control. So a lot of people, they think about self-control is, okay, well, controlling your alcohol, controlling your food, controlling your spending, all these controlling things. But the most important control is the thought control. The reason I'm saying that is, when you go to look for something, let's say an opportunity, if you start to see, your mind can tell you that, oh, there is a risk. Your mind can tell you 5 things what bad can happen here. But if you control the mind and tell the thought that, hey, stop, let me look it from like let me look it as an opportunity. And if you told that, you will look at the same thing from a very different angle. So that self-control is very important, because otherwise the opportunity will not come to you. You will have opportunity keep coming into you, but you will not see that. And that self-control can happen when you have a pursuit, when you have a dream or a goal or something you're chasing. and then you will see opportunity. Let's say if I wanted to become let's take an example of running. If I wanted to run within 4 hours, like run the whole 42 kilometers in 4 hours, which that's too much for me. But if I find somebody who has done in 3 hours, if my mind is open and that's my goal, I will quickly grab that person and start to kind of talk to them and make some friends and start to understand the strategy. But if I don't have a goal, I will have so many runners go past me, I will never even touch them. If my goal is to become financially sufficient, then if I look at somebody who's financially independent, I wanted to learn from them because that's my goal. That moves me in that direction. And my thought is taking me into that. But if I'm very, what do you call the word, a skeptic, my thought will stop me doing things, which is very important. So sometimes that the thought of defeat is what I'm referring to. The thought of defeat has to be, you will have situation where you're trying for something for 6 months and nothing has happened yet. That does not mean that the next day it cannot happen. And that's why I'm just taking so much time to stress it, because I've seen the real benefit of this in my own life. Like, you just do not give up, because every time you're trying and doing something, you're refining yourself, you're becoming stronger from your self perspective. But that self control helps you to nurture the nature, because you are an optimistic person, your thought is very pure, you are going to help the environment, the nature. Then I talk about the Emerson's law of compensation, and that is like, in simple word, the law of compensation is what you give out, you get. So there's the nature has done in a way, and Emerson has wrote an essay on that. And if you get a chance, read it. But what it says, that the quality of service and the quantity of service is equal to your compensation. So many times I see people complain about, oh, the company is not giving me the raise, so I wanted to quit. The place I work for, they don't treat me well. And look, these are correct allegations. There's companies do that. It's not that they are not doing it. But what I learned is, if something is not working, communicate. Go sit on the table and just look at this and see where is the challenge. Is the quantity of service is a challenge, or the quality of service you provide is a challenge? And then negotiate your compensation. And that's in real life as well. So when we have this working, when we provide quality service, the environment will seek you for that, because there's very few people who could do, like, in an honest way, provide service, and they would be rewarded. The nature will help them. Then we've got habit of doing more than you're paid for. This one law, if we did that, we would attract so much favors in our life that you would not even fathom. That is, just any time when we do something, if we just do like 5 or 10% extra, like just the extra mile, when somebody comes in your business, so many of you are probably, is there anybody here has a customer facing business?
I'm sure plenty in the audience would be having one. Yeah.
Or maybe just you dealing with people. You're dealing with people, and Suraj, you would be dealing with so many people. I mean,
Yep.
the people come to you.
Yep.
Was there a situation where you had to do more than you were expected to? Like, you had to go extra mile to help that person?
Yep. As you said, that self-control and optimism all come together. And that's where doing this community service has opened up my mind to giving back to the community. And that is where it's become my nature to give more than is expected out of me. And that's truly a very well rewarding habit one can build. So I can concur with that thought. Thank you.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. What I meant by habit of doing more than you paid for is the law of increasing returns. I think in our economics, 9th or 10th, we must have read the law of increasing returns, where the farmer puts like the seed they would take like a kilo or 2 kilo of seeds and put into a ground which would be few acre, like half an acre or whatever it is in the ground, they would do the seed. But when the farmer takes all the effort and puts this, takes care of the crop, when the crop comes, that just goes multifold returns on that seed, which was only 2 kilos, but they probably would get maybe 200 times of that, or maybe, I don't know, multi times that the crop. That's what called law of increasing returns. So that's why putting some extra creates that compounding effect. So doing something, a lot of the, many times when we complain about things, if we did that extra, things which had happened would have happened very differently. The environment will then give us the reward in a very different way, in the same way as the farmer gets those crops back to them when they did all the hard work and putting in. The farmer at the time does not know that, hey, I am putting this seed, will this come back in manyfold or not? But they have this blind faith that I'm doing the right thing and that will come in plenty. And that's what we got to do, put in some extra work so that that comes in plenty. And that's what is called influencing the environment from your own way. We are influencing the environment, but just paying a little bit more.
If I can just share a short story about it.
That would be great.
Yeah, so there was a story that it's made up story that a farmer who used to create grow watermelons in his farm, the best watermelons in the town. And every year he used to have a competition on the crop that the best watermelon were given to the community to eat, whoever can most and take out the most seeds out of that eating activity will be the winner of the day. And he used to do that. And his son used to observe him why he's giving up the best watermelon for the competition and all, and he's just taking the seed out of that. Over the years, his son stopped doing that, and he either slowly reduced to giving the average watermelons and all, and or in the later years, he completely stopped doing that. So he ran out of good seeds, and his crop started depleting. Then he realized why his dad was doing that thing. He was giving the best watermelon to retain the best seed out of that for future crops, basically. So that could be related to this thought, for giving more than you would expect. Yeah.
Definitely. It's so true. And that's what it is. It's just putting in our mind that, hey, before I go and blame, before I seek a lot of things from outside, can I do something from my side? Can I do 10% more before I expect everything from somebody else? If that mindset is there, then you would not have a problem. In fact, you are actually gaining a lot of support through that. And I've seen that support even then in the network. People say, okay, go add people on your LinkedIn because then the reference gives you the job. I said, adding people on LinkedIn does not get you the job. Making good connection, doing something for that person will get you the job or whatever offer you want to get. So it's just the meaningful work which you do for somebody that just creates that ripple effect. But you connect. I mean, how many people you would have connected, Suryaji, just by doing this, kind of social work?
Yeah,
So,
just call it as a side effect of doing social work.
good effect of that.
Yeah.
I've got. I'm conscious of time, so we got the pleasing personality. I've got a couple of slides on that because this has been drained into our mind by the people I'm associated with, and I'll give the slide if anybody wanted to read and learn, because we won't have time to go through all that. But this one says that in pleasing personality, there are things which you learn and imbibe, like applying you, and then things which you eliminate. And so the things in learning is, which we talked about, positive mental attitude, optimism, being interested than being interesting. Like being interested is such a good thing where you actually attract people to you because you're always interested in somebody. So that's something which if we did that, we are actually seeking a lot of favors from people. Sincerity of purpose, not flattery, but just if you find that something is going really well, just complimenting. And that just creates such a good personality of you because people would like to talk to you. promptness of decision. This is one thing which I was really bad at and I'm getting better at, is not delaying the decision, because nobody wants to work with, like, or talk to people who take too much time deciding small things. So this is a really good thing to be clear. If that filters, deciding is not about saying yes. Deciding is all about this is done or this is not done. But making a decision faster will bring in a lot of people to you that, hey, let's go to Samir because his decision making is really good, because he takes the decision very fast. So that's a really good one. The other one I want to talk about is tolerance. This is an Afghan example. That day I jumped into an Uber, and the guy who was driving was from Pakistan. He asked me this question: sir, what do you think about the current tension between India and Pakistan? And I said, well, I don't watch the news. Can you tell me what has happened? So he said, oh, you're joking. Don't you know about, all those, both the countries are fighting? I said, well, the thing is, I don't know if a person can kill the other person. I don't even care if they have any religion. I don't even care. That person is just a bad person, because if you kill somebody, if you kill a fellow human being, and I didn't take that this person, as in, if I was intolerant, I would just have told something bad about Pakistan or anything. This guy was just a normal public from that place. So many times you meet people and you become very judgmental about your own religion, about your own country. You say something. If you are tolerant about things, then you will attract people in your life. If you are not tolerant, then you will not attract people. So you got to sometimes suck it up, like keep that inside, and then being open that, hey, being very fair is important in life. And then the psychology of good clothes, like wearing clothes is not about just new clothes, branded clothes, but it is about really neatly pressed and clean and occasion specific clothing. Really important to attract people. And in the eliminate side of things, you can read all that, but the one which I like, the last one, imagine it, like talking about your ill health. Like, the people talk about always, oh, I've got this and I've got that, I've got this problem. You would not have a lot of friends if you talk about your illness for no reason, or if you just exaggerate your illness and things like that. Or if you exaggerate about your good health too, like too many times, yeah, I'm so fit, I'm this, I've got so much money. That will simply not create a lot of good. I mean, it will take people out of you, then bring people close to you. So I'll leave this slide for people to read later on. But it's got some really good things which we can.
Rajnish, can you please elaborate on psychology of good cloth?
Okay, that psychology of good clothes comes from the thinking, Ravi ji, comes from the thinking that first impression, like this is really important to, people judge you in first, when they look at you, like the first impression. Now, I don't worry about people's judgment. I always worry about when we talk about, going somewhere. Let's say if I'm going to a temple, and if I had a clothes which will suit my going to the temple, if I'm wearing like that, I probably will find more friends. I'm talking about more pleasing personality, not from anything else. So wearing some occasion specific clothing is one thing in mind. That, okay, if I'm going to, let's say, a job interview, I'm wearing certain kind of clothes. If I'm going to this function, I'm wearing certain kind of clothes. If I'm going to a temple, particularly a ripped jeans would not be a very good idea. But also wearing something which is, makes you feel that you're successful, makes you feel that you're important. So that's what I talked about from psychology of good clothes. Also, the other thing is the personal grooming. Let's say if I'm hair everywhere, like on my neck. Now I know if after 40 you start to get gray hair everywhere. Sometimes I see in my mirror, I'll see, well, if I keep those things clean, I look nicer. I've got more confidence. If I talk to people, I relate to them more. So those things I meant, just the personal hygiene and the good clothes.
Yep. Thank you.
Always. And lastly, the third thing is when you built yourself through self, you kind of created a ripple effect through your environment so that you attract people to you. The last one is going together. Is the golden rule. It's the life philosophy that I'm going to do unto others as you would like them to do to me. And extend it to thinking. I'm going to think for others as I want them to think for me. So I don't want to have any ill thinking in my mind, because ultimately thinking is what lets me take an action. Your thinking will actually comes sometimes in words, and that can create a lot of issues out of that as well. So why not pure myself just from the thinking point of itself, so that my work, my words, my behavior to people changes from thinking level. So that's in the golden rule. Golden rule is a philosophy where if I do something really good, things will come back to me in manifold. And so that is, I think, the golden rule. I was actually reading in Indian philosophy. When we read, I was reading Garud Puran a long time ago. My father, when he passed away, the Panditji would come and we had to read this. So I find a lot of these things were there where he talks about doing good things in life. And then, I mean, this is framed as a golden rule, which is a golden rule in Jesus Christ's, their Bible as well. So it has got generations of thinking behind it. So we should apply that. That's it. I'm done. So sorry if I went over time, but
not
this
at
is
all. This is very thought-provoking. As you said, we'll have to pause on those slides and pause the video and the recording and read them again, because what you have written is from your life experience, and it is a practical thing. And what you said requires a lot of persistence in our life practice for many years to be good at those skills. So thank you for sharing all your thoughts around that.
Yeah, done. And if anybody wants to scan in, connect, you can do that through the QR code, or you can just simply take on that, and I'll send the slide as well. So I'll stop sharing. Where is the...
Any question? Yes, Sita ji, please. Yes.
Excellent. Your speaking is excellent, and I learned a lot in this.
Yep. Thank you. Thank you, Sita ji.
Sorry.
That's all right. Yeah. And you've been very regular audience and persistent and consistent. So as I think you missed the early message from Rajnish ji, that if you're regularly joining webinars like this, you're already on the journey of self-improvement and self-learning. So you're one of the very persistent audience. So thank you, Sita ji, for joining.
Thank you.
And I would also welcome Manoj Kumar ji on this program. Welcome, Manoj ji. You are on mute. You're on mute. Yeah. Any other question from the audience? Or any experience or thoughts they want to share? Any reflection from these slides? And thankful to Vimalji to be part of this program throughout the session today.
Yeah, Suryaji, I just wanted to share one thought.
Yes, please.
It is so interesting to hear from Rajnish's experiences, and all it means is, I mean, we've been taught formally as well, but learning from all of us is, you know, we can never stop learning from life and from each other's experiences, and it's an endless process. And I think we have to continue until our last breath, because every moment will be new for us at any given time. So we just have to keep learning and refining ourselves.
I would like to hear just a few sentences, few thoughts, Rajnishji, from you, from your fitness journey. What's your passion and motivation around your fitness journey? Please share some thoughts around that. Yeah.
That was, you know, when you start to become too comfortable, then you got to find areas where you can be uncomfortable. And fitness was around that COVID time where a lot of people started. So I started running. I never had run continuously more than 2 kilometers before. So I started 2 kilometers, then it became a little more, 3 kilometers, and that went to 40 minutes of consistent running. The day I did 40 minutes of run, that was more than 6 kilometers. I was wrapped. I said, "Oh wow!" And then that's how I started doing. So that just started to build on. I did one full marathon in Sydney, 2023, and then few half marathons. But main thing is I just run on for a running purposes, and I kept myself fit because as you age after 40, your body starts to become wants more rest, and that would mean that your energy level starts to go down, your fitness just start to show up on your face. And I'm always energetic. That's what I say to myself, like I cannot, people tell me my age, I just tell them 10 years low, less than what I am actually, and that goes well with them. So that's the inner motivation, that if I walk with my son, people would tell him that this is a older brother of his son. So
That's really true. Dilipji, you joined very late, but any thoughts you want to share?
Rajnish, what you just said is what I thought when I was in class 9 in India. This is exactly what I had. This was always been my inspiration, that if I stand with my son, people should always say, that he is the elder brother of this person. So I 100% agree with you there. So, this definitely has been one of my motivations, in my journey to remain fit and not gain a lot of weight. Although I like to eat sweet things, but still I just do a lot of other things to make sure that I'm compensating for say exercising or dieting or doing other things, just to make sure that I'm compensating for that. But I think each one of us have to have some sort of motivation, and that has been my motivation since class 9. So thank you for sharing that. It's very interesting that we share the same.
Yep. Any final comments, thoughts, and then we can wrap up here. Barney, Ravi? Yeah.
Hi, Rajnish ji. Now, it was a very thought-provoking discussion that you held. I really admire the effort that you put in. My question was around the power of being authentic, and a lot of times we basically don't express ourselves to the best that we want to, in the fear that we might offend others, and it's sort of, and sometimes then you might come across as being a very superficial person, that you're saying exactly what the other person needs to hear. And sometimes it is good to be more authentic so that people know who you are, and maybe that sort of builds trust. So what were your thoughts? Like, how do you see we navigate authenticity and being mindful of you don't step on others' foot when you communicate?
That's a great question. I tell you, that's been a struggle as well. So in that journey, that's communication is a key thing in authentic dealings and behavior. But it's been a challenge as well, because it's not, so judgment is one thing, like you have somebody judging you, and that's in your mind. Like, more than the person judging you, thinking more about what people are thinking about me. And then also stepping into somebody's shoes, like people would just say, well, where is this person coming from? Or you might see that because I'm communicating in a certain way, because I'm being authentic, I may get disadvantaged, because let's say if there's a promotion, if there is something at the workplace, I probably would not be seen favorably because I've got a son who needs to be looked after. And so those things. But it all comes down to the way I looked at, the way I shaped myself, because I can only talk from my experience, is when we know what's important, like when we become a little bit clearer on what's ahead of me, what I really wanted to, then communicating is the best way to go, and communicating authentically. Because rather than worrying about what the result is going to be, you just be very honest and sit on the table and communicate. Because And for that, and there's a story behind that. In 2020, I was having this challenge, facing this challenge of being with people who are very bold, and we come from a culture where we respect people. We don't offend people by using the F word, S word. People just use F word right, left, and center at work as well. And I thought, okay, how do I become stronger by not using those words? And how do I communicate boldly? And I spoke to I've got a mentor of mine. He actually guided me around that time. For 6 months, I read almost 6 different books, communicating, understanding. One of the book I still remember is Crucial Conversation. If you get a chance, grab it. Like it's a book which has got more than 4 million copies sold. And I read that book is how to put people into the safe zone and then communicate at a higher level. So take them on a common ground, discuss about the situation, and take them to a higher level where you are able to tell them the truth rather than worrying about those things. That is a really good book which helped me.
What's the book's name again?
Crucial Conversation.
Okay. Thank you, Rajnish ji. That was wonderful. Thank you.
Thank you, Ravi.
I'm very conscious of the time, and if there are no further comments, I would like to wrap up. Vimal ji or anybody want to give a vote of thanks, or otherwise I can wrap it up.
Thank you, everyone.
So with that, thank you, Rajnish ji, for sharing your crucial time, important time of the day, and you have shared your wisdom of last many years of your professional journey. You shared how to self-improve, how to influence our environment, as well as how to follow principles in our life. And that makes us an all-round person. And especially as you shared your personal experience of fitness, as well as communication improvement, and we can all take good learning lesson from you. And we'll have to go back to this recording and watch all the slides again. And we would request you, if you could share your recommended books on WhatsApp message. I can share it with my summary of this webinar tonight. And with that note, thank you once again to you and to all the CA chapter members joining tonight. And those who are watching on YouTube, please like, subscribe, and share these webinars to a wider group and join our WhatsApp group. With that note, thank you everyone for joining tonight, and have a great evening. Good night all. Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.